Jessica Jones explores some of the darkest corners of the Marvel Universe and does so with real nuance and care, so much so that I would argue the first season of Jessica Jones is on par with the quality of Daredevil. Such a large part of that is because of its villain, Killgrave, portrayed by David Tennant.
I guess that makes me the winner.
In this video, I'm going to be talking about how the show portrays him so effectively to make him such a standout villain. The unique thing about how this show approaches its villain is that we see how he's affected the protagonist from the very start. We find Jessica after her attempt at the high moral superhero lifestyle. It was during that brief stint that she had her experience with Kilgrave, who has the ability to mind control, essentially. If he gives a command, whoever he's talking to is immediately forced to comply, and he forced Jessica into a relationship with him for an extended period of time, leaving her with heavy PTSD. Starting out with the aftermath builds an emotional connection, as well as terror and paranoia. In the comics, Kilgrave is physically purple-skinned, known as the Purple Man. I'm glad they didn't try to translate that. I think going with just a nice clean purple suit does the job. I think especially with the subject matter of this show and the nature of the character, that wouldn't have helped the weight that he needs. When we find Jessica, the main way she gets through her day is drinking. Part of what's so scary about Kilgrave is that he does come off like a normal person so much of the time. From the outside, you would just think he's a normal, charming guy, but his true nature is much darker than that, and with his powers, he has the ability to remove free will. The real story of Jessica Jones is her overcoming the trauma from an abusive relationship. The show presents Jessica suffering with this PTSD very well, but one of the most common ways is through the colour purple. The colour symbolises Jessica's trauma, essentially.
Come back here!
She has her ways of grounding herself, which is specifically recounting the place he supposedly died. We don't get to see Kilgrave immediately, but we feel his presence from the get-go. The way he ropes his way back into Jessica's life is a great way to kick off the season because it shows the kind of person he is, as well as what he's capable of. He kidnaps a woman called Hope, and he even sends her parents directly to Jessica.
The police referred you to me?
Why? Would that be unusual?
Not at all.
Which leads her following a trail, eventually finding a restaurant that turns out to be the same one he once took Jessica to. We accidentally transition into that memory as she realizes that Hope was here with Kilgrave, therefore he's still alive. The shutter speed and light changes all around her create a very unsettling feeling, as well as building panic. And we get the confirmation that it was Kilgrave here, as we hear one of the waiters explaining that he requested Italian food, and despite being a Chinese restaurant, they for some reason felt forced to comply with his requests. And this is key because it was an Italian restaurant when he took Jessica there.
You'll love it.
I will love it.
So this shows that Jessica is the target, and so also shows him being ahead of the game. The sensory overload that Jess experiences afterwards is effective at putting us in the whirlwind she must be feeling. Clearly, this is an elaborate, tangled web orchestrated to get at Jessica, but what he actually wants is unknown for now. So Jess goes to the next location she remembers spending with Kilgrave, which was a hotel, and tension is built very effectively through her flashbacks bleeding into the present until we do find Hope, but she's alone, and we see how the victims under his power feel now. Not only are they forced to act on whatever he says, but they feel compelled to, but we also learn that his powers wear off after time and distance. So by now, Hope should be free. As she enters the lift with her parents though, Hope takes out a gun, and by the time Jessica reaches the bottom, she's met with two parents, gunned down, as Hope tells Jessica to smile, a direct message from Kilgrave. The events of the whole episode were orchestrated by Kilgrave and went perfectly to plan. How on earth can we fight someone who can control your mind, tell you exactly what he wants to do, and you do it?
You'd like to invite me in?
Absolutely.
The internal fear those people must feel, not knowing why they're complying with this total stranger. It must be genuinely terrifying. David Tennant is consistently amazing throughout the season and is utilised expertly. He gets just the perfect amount of screen time. In the first half of the season, we only really see glimpses, mostly through Jessica's trauma manifesting and flashbacks. It really gives the necessary weight that he still holds on her life. Even without direct contact, he's still controlling her. The first time Jess sees him in person again, he portrays equal shock and oozing confidence at the same time. We learn he didn't expect Jessica to be catching up to him so soon, but he's not afraid. He seems to believe in total confidence in whatever his mission is. Per usual, he has the foresight to keep her distracted so that he can make an escape, and this is where she finds out he actually has a spy, taking regular photos and keeping him informed of her every move. There are tons of images on all 4 of these walls in this room, just showing how much of an obsession he has and how much of an utter creep he is, and it only gets worse when we learn his true motivation. But before that, we actually find out that Malcolm has been the spy. It's a real shock to everyone. Malcolm is a drug addict who lives a few doors down, and Jess says it herself, you wouldn't look twice at a junkie, so Killgrave chose the perfect person. But realizing that he's been under Killgrave's control for such a long time without her having any real clue, firstly shows how much he knows about her, but also just ups the paranoia, and that is something this show is excellent at. We don't know who to trust at any time, because how can you trust anyone with this context? Even outside of this context, after going through something like Jessica has gone through, an abusive, manipulative relationship, this is how you feel on the other side. Trust becomes harder to find in yourself. All of those photos taken, she had no idea. How long has Malcolm been under Killgrave's influence? We, as well as Jessica, feel totally unable to trust anyone. And we have a total fear of this man because he gets within distance and he has the ability to take away your consent, your free will. So again, he still hasn't made direct contact with Jessica, but is finding ways to torture her, using her own orbit against her. So when Jessica starts to think up traps to catch him, she gets desperate and decides to get herself sentenced to Supermax prison and hopes that Killgrave would come for her and then she could trap him.
Not a great plan.
But that doesn't quite go to plan. So basically, Killgrave killed one of Jessica's neighbors. It was quite eerie how this all went down. The neighbor basically said that he was in love with Jessica, so Killgrave killed him and left him in her bed. And Jessica decides that she's gonna frame herself for this. In reality as well, this is one of the many examples of Jess's now self-destructive tendencies. Obviously, the drinking and isolation being the biggest ones. She ends up severing the guy's head completely and taking it to the police station in the hopes that she'll be sentenced immediately. But the tone of the episode changes in a heartbeat when she sees in the main reception every officer holding a gun to either their own or another person's head. The tension skyrockets out of nowhere, and then from behind a desk in the neat purple suit rises Killgrave. This scene provides us with his true mindset and motivations, and the entire situation feels balanced on a knife edge. But he doesn't seem to care in the slightest. The only thing he cares about is the fact that he's got Jessica's attention. He says he wants Jess to go with him out of choice rather than using his powers. When she questions why he's been torturing her, he seems genuinely shocked and offended.
Oh my God.
Before declaring his love for her. Everything he's been doing has been to show that he can match Jessica.
Underneath it, all the power. Just like me.
But not quite as good, of course.
It's such a demented and twisted mentality Killgrave is portraying here. Even though he considers it love, the reality is it's obsession and want. The tension is pushed further in the scene when one person's phone rings and we see him genuinely lash out from his own stress, which is solely over Jessica's response to his actions.
I am trying to profess eternal love here, people!
And when she accuses him of never loving anything in his life, it seems to hit a nerve as he again switches to pure rage in a brief moment before returning to an unbelievably eerie, soft presentation. David Tennant is, again, just so creepy in this entire show, but this scene, I think, is a standout moment for his performance.
Wow.
So, all of Killgrave's life, the world has bended to his will. He's never known rejection in any form because people can't reject him. The fact that Jessica actually left him that night of the bus crash has created a total obsession. The only thing in life that he's been denied by is Jessica, so that's a new sensation to him, a new thrill that he cannot let go. We initially think that he doesn't want to use his powers on her because it's a part of his game, but it's actually a vital detail for later on. He wants to own Jessica once more, and to him, that craving, that obsession, is what he believes to be love. But if it wasn't clear already, this guy is a total sociopath and delusional. He refuses to acknowledge that he raped her and removed her ability to use free will. He took away her ability to consent in any form, as he has undoubtedly done to many other women. But due to both of their abilities, he believes that they're perfect for each other. He justifies his vile actions with pure fiction in his head, thinking that she loved him. We see even more of this in the following episodes, where we see just the extent that he was willing to go through to showcase his twisted idea of love. Even though to everyone else, including us, we can see it's an elaborate attempt at control through fear, but I think he genuinely believes this is meaningful, despite it being actually kind of terrifying. And the fact is that he isn't really capable of love. The only thing Killgrave understands is control and ownership. So, one question you may be asking is why doesn't Jessica just kill him? We don't know what happens when he dies. What happens to people under his command? What if he has streets of people ordered to kill their own families upon his death? There's no way of knowing. So the next big thing he did was purchase Jessica's childhood home and then proceed to recreate everything that had since been changed through researching old photos. This is such a psychotic thing to do and is really unnerving, and for Jessica, she's now dealing with like 2 past traumas at once. Jess decides to stay to try and understand what the game is and to move the plot forward as well, of course. Despite not controlling her directly, Killgrave still has contingencies. If Jess lashes out in any way, the chefs of the house have been ordered to put their own lives on the line, and this is the perfect showcase of the lack of morals within him. The only thing he wants is Jessica. Anyone he can use to help achieve that is a tool. He's never seen people as people.
You bore me. Leave. Go on.
Just things to get what he wants, and even without directly commanding Jessica, he still has control. Throughout her stay here, she learns how Killgrave got his abilities. His parents actually experimented on him as a child, and that's essentially how he ended up the way that he has. Jess says it perfectly. He was never taught what good was. Obviously, that's not an excuse in any way, shape or form. He should have been able to understand that even with his ability. He frames himself as a victim.
I have to painstakingly choose every word I say.
I once told a man to go screw himself. Can you even imagine?
All this shit that you do is because nobody ever taught you how to be good.
I truly hope you're not laughing at me, Jessica.
But we get greater detail in the following episodes how despite it being his parents that did give him the powers, it's actually a virus that they infected him with, and it was all in an attempt to cure him from a disease he had that would leave him brain dead. His parents aren't innocent, of course, because rather than teaching him how his powers work and everything, they abandoned him out of fear. But it does give us a greater understanding. So with all this new information, Jess and Trish ponder if it'd be possible to use Killgrave for good. So she takes him to a home where a dude is about to kill the residents along with himself with a shotgun. So Killgrave tells everyone what to do and they resolve the situation. Although his first instinct was to make the guy shoot himself, but Jess stops that from happening and they leave, saving everyone in the home. So from this, we'd assume the answer is yes, he can be used to good, he just saved 4 lives. But it's in his response to this that we see why he can never truly do this. Killgrave returns with Jess to the house full of glee, not because he saved a life, because he thinks it's gaining him points, particularly with Jessica, but also in a more general way. He has no actual care for what he's just done. He couldn't care less. He believes saving a life would make up for taking one, and he genuinely believed that forcing the guy to blow his brains out was the right thing to do. So after discussing all this with Trish, Jessica concludes that he isn't a person capable of doing good, because at his core, the abilities aren't the problem, he's a psychopath. And obviously, it's not the abused's job to show the abuser what they do is wrong. So subdues him and goes on to the next plan, imprisoning him and hoping to showcase his powers on videotape so that they can use it as evidence to get Hope released from prison. Now another thing you might be wondering is that why isn't this guy an Avengers level threat? This is in the MCU after all. And you would have a good point on the surface. His powers actually do have limits. There is a limited time frame and range that his commands will work within, so it's not like he could just get on live TV and tell the entire world to do his bidding. It wouldn't work like that. And we also see how careful he is with the paper trail he leaves, because he doesn't really leave one. He removes physical evidence of his presence and all of that kind of stuff. So I think it actually works better thematically that he does operate from the shadows. Unfortunately, there are many people with this personality in real life. Dangerous, manipulative people, and they are smart. Him sticking to the shadows at a low level is more realistic to these type of people. They don't want lots of attention, they manipulate in small circles to get everything they want, and that's exactly what Killgrave is doing. He gets put in a muted cell, and it is incredibly satisfying to see Jessica torture this murdering rapist asshole. This feels like it's been a long time coming and she deserves to be the one to hand it to him. But the way he plays this entire sequence shows his true inner nature. He avoids being caught by being so careful, never making any commands. He doesn't even try to use his power, and that's how he still remains in control.
Feels good, doesn't it? Being in control.
In an attempt to break Killgrave, Jess seeked out his parents, and it does appear to somewhat work. He gets genuinely emotional and fueled with rage.
We love you. Then why did you leave?
Eventually commanding his mother to stab herself for every year she'd left him. It all went very wrong very quickly after this, with a technical error, and he ends up being able to escape, but we gained a much better understanding of who Killgrave is, how to stop him because of understanding the nature of not only his abilities, but him as an individual. And I think the following episodes we see more of under the mask that he betrays. He stops hiding behind his twisted idea of love. He wants to hurt Jessica for what she's put him through. He again is playing the victim, but as we will eventually find out, he ultimately can't resist the temptation to have her. This is also about the time we find out that Jess is actually immune to his abilities. Whether it's her own powers that allowed her to build a resistance, or it was overexposure, we don't know. But it's incredibly satisfying to see this and her finally gain power over him, realistically. But that's why he's been playing the games the way he has, trying to manipulate her, claiming it's her choice, even though he makes situations where it isn't really her choice. But he's known this fact for a while. But also, now that his father's come back into the picture, a new opportunity arises to expand and increase his power level. So he orders a trade. He'll give Jessica Hope in return for him having his dad. And Jessica's main focus has been to help save Hope. She doesn't want her to suffer the same life that she has. But she's been trying to do it the right way. Get him locked up. And like I say, she has no idea what happens when he dies. He could have a city block ready to explode. But Hope actually ends up killing herself, taking the control away from Killgrave and telling Jessica to finish the job. It's a heartbreaking way for Jess to finally accept taking his life as the only option, but now that he's back in the open, and with his power potentially, well, getting more powerful, he is unshackled, so to speak. So Luke Cage comes back into the show at this point. Killgrave had actually commanded him to blow up his own bar with Jessica in view in effort to hurt her after learning that they had a romance. Eventually, Jess is convinced that Luke is free from his commands, so they work together to look for Killgrave. Over the course of these episodes, they're able to rebuild their bond that was fractured. They track down the club where he had been practicing his abilities, and after she thinks Luke's got out, we get an awful surprise! Luke never even got out of Killgrave's control. His and Jessica's moments together were even orchestrated by Killgrave.
I forgive you for everything. Now say it every day or as long as you need to hear it.
Those meaningful moments are tarnished and used against Jessica, and now Cage is literally used as a weapon to stop her. And the fight ends with Jessica shooting him in the head, which, you know, is a pretty clear way to break up with someone. So by this point, Killgrave has entangled himself in every element of Jessica's life, weaponizing people around her and completely destroying her ability to trust and feel safe. And the saddest thing is his obsession with Jessica is about to be his downfall. Despite the last few attempts at increasing his power having failed, he hopes that the latest power upgrade points he earned will allow him to control Jessica yet again. As a failsafe, he has a group of people attempt to kill each other in an effort to slow her down, and in one final effort, he yells at Jessica and the crowd to stop. And look, you can see some purple veins because he's Mr. Purple. And in this moment, Jessica does, in fact, stop dead. Even he's hesitant to believe it though.
Oh god, it is so tempting.
He tries to disprove it by using Jessica's care for Trish by assaulting her, forcing Trish to kiss him while Jessica watches. Jessica does just that, she just watches. And so, he believes he's done it. He believes he finally has achieved what he's wanted, ownership over Jessica Jones after all this time. But he gets punked, and very satisfyingly gets his neck snapped. This is the first time he's ever had to chase anyone or anything, and he just couldn't stop himself from trying to have that. And what he does to Trish right before his death just makes it so much more satisfying to see him put down. I guess he can't regenerate. That wasn't quite the end of Killgrave in the MCU though. In season 2, there's a whole episode dedicated to Jessica hallucinating his presence yet again when she starts to fear she's turning into a monster. Something that Killgrave believed he saw in her. She fights with her morality, and that is presented through the manifestation of Killgrave, who shows the side of her mind pushing her further into darkness. Then the very final episode of the show, in season 3, as Jess is contemplating leaving New York after everything she's had to deal with. She decides to stay when she hears Killgrave's voice in her head, telling her to give up. These events coming after his death is another very effective representation of how he was controlling Justin as a person, and it's incredibly effective at showcasing PTSD, at least in my opinion. It's incredibly powerful and meaningful when we see her finally get to take that power away from him and take ownership over her own life, but what happened will always still affect her to some degree. The first season, we get to see just how horrifying he is firsthand, as well as the mental toll he takes. These later episodes just show how people like this worm their way into your minds and tangle in there for good, and that's the scary thing. He didn't need mind control to control anyone, and learning that there wasn't some big thing that made him bad, this was just him. This was the guy beneath the power. That's what makes him such a terrifying villain.